Good evening and welcome to Saratoga Springs Planning Commission for July 13th, 2023. I've asked Commissioner Reid Ryan to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All of the planning commissioners are here and present this evening for our meeting. The next item on the agenda is public input. Time has been set aside for persons to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues not listed as a public hearing on the agenda. There's only one item on the agenda that's a public hearing. That's the Stevenette Development General Plan Amendment. So if you're here to make comment on any of the other items, now would be the time. I'm going to close public comment at this time, and we'll move on to the first item, the Stevenette Development General Plan Amendment from Business Park to Regional Commercial, rezone from Business Park to Regional Commercial, and concept plan review located at 1751 North Wedgwood Road. Sean Stevenette is the applicant, and it's be presented by Kent Page this evening. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come up and join us?
Yeah. We're both going to come up here.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give an overview. This area was rezoned last May of 2022. And so this rezone is considering just about 3 acres of the 5 acres. And the proposal is to change the current zoning from business park to regional commercial and change the current land use designation from a business park to regional commercial. And the location is approximately 1751 North Redwood Road. And they've submitted a concept plan, and a concept plan that the rezone is not binding upon the city nor the applicant, but it's given for kind of general reference to give an idea of what is being proposed. And our general plan gives kind of a definition of the purpose of the business park and the regional commercial, and our land use management code, Title 19, also gives a definition, our purpose for the business park and the regional commercial. And here's a basic comparison between the business park requirements and the regional commercial requirements. And then this slide shows notable permitted uses in the RC, but not permitted in the business park. So there's 36 permitted uses that are allowed in the business park and 60 permitted uses allowed in the regional commercial zone. And then we have some possible motions of positive recommendation or continuance or denial. So I'd be glad to address any questions you might have or go back into any detail you might have from the presentation or the staff report.
Okay. Would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation? Make sure you state your name and address for the record.
Sean Stevenette.
Yeah.
Sean Stevenette, 10669 South Kachuma Way in South Jordan. No, Kent's covered everything. We just want to see if we can have the option to both have either commercial as far as like retail and if we wanted to do like if there's a possibility to even have, or if there's an option to have like a medical office or something in there, we want to be able to have the flexibility.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment at this time. Seems as there's no one here is going to make public comment. I will close the public comment at this time, and I will turn this over to the Planning Commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Hill.
So what we're looking at is just giving a little more flexibility so that you can develop from your perspective where the needs might be that could be off that list of 60 as compared to 36. In your concept plan, you have an idea. Are there any things specific that you are thinking about, or as a developer, individuals have come to you that might fit within that 60 and not the 36? Or is it just all, having the flexibility right now?
Chandler Stevenette, 4517 Open Hill Drive, South Jordan. The option that we're looking for is right now we've just been seeing so much business space that's just been vacant and sitting, and there's no real use for it at the moment. Coming off of COVID and everything, it seems like it just hasn't come back. So the option is to have the flexibility of that space, to have it full and have tenants involved, and not have vacant land in the city, really.
Yeah, we just want to avoid of having any vacancy. And so if we had the option there, I mean, we could build to suit.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to run over to the site just to take a look at it. And from my perspective, there's offices on the south side a bit, and then it looked like maybe some condos and then some single-family residents with their backyard, but nothing really, really close. So it seems like a really good, for a business park or a regional zoning, it just seems like a good place, close in, a lot of things happening, good access to come in and out. So I was pleased to see kind of the concept plan that would fit within that area. So I just wanted to know if there was something specific that was driving to the kind of the regional center as compared to a business park. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barton. Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I actually don't. Just my opinion. I don't know what's wrong with vacant land. I guess if it's already been bought, then that's okay. But if you're talking about not having vacant land in the city, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think we want every single thing filled up with like little, strip malls or anything like that, or that sort of thing. So for me, just because I think there's a ton of stuff, and I think better places for regional commercial, and we have other obviously regional commercials at other places. I think that that's a great spot for business commercial. That's just my opinion on that, and that's just because that's the area I live in, and I am going by there all the time. There's an elementary school right there. There are houses right there. And to think of a grocery store going in there, because I know that's probably not going in there, but that is a possibility, right, if we change it to regional commercial. There's some things in that list of 60 that I'm not comfortable with going into that area compared to the 36 or whatever that's allowed for business commercial. So that's my opinion on that, and that's, anyway, 60, some of those things are too much, and I think would not be a good fit there, although then, of course, it is a good fit there. I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? If we change it, then you can build any of those that you want to, and so for me, I just think there's too much leeway there with the 60 compared to the 36 that were available. I just don't think it's a great area for it, but that's, again, we're just discussing, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Commissioner Kilgore.
Since this is an administrative, oh, no, it's not. This is legislative. Okay, never mind. Then I was wondering, where is the, let me get to the page. Where is the, so on the Exhibit 2, location and zone map, I don't see where and I don't know where the PC zone is. The planned community, where is that going?
The planned community?
Yeah,
Is this the right display that's up on the screen, or?
No, so there was, oh, I should have referenced it. There was a, okay, sorry, let me go back to it said that, okay, on the site plan very first page of the staff, well, it's not the very first page, it's page 31 in the staff packet. I don't know what it is in the report itself. It says that the adjacent zoning, so the parcel zoning is RC, and the adjacent, maybe I'm not looking at the right. Yeah, Valvoline, right? This is we're not doing Valvoline. We, I'm too far ahead. Sorry.
We'll catch up to you.
Okay. How about I'll go after I figure out where I am.
Okay, we'll come back. Sir, did you have something you wanted to say?
Today's is the 13th.
You just want your mic on? Okay. Our city attorney, oh, you didn't have anything? Okay. Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions. Student of history, but not doing my history here, trying to remember back. This was a fairly recent change, right? We're talking May 2022, correct?
Correct.
So I was trying to harken back and remember why at that time we felt it appropriate to divide it as we did between regional commercial and the business park, and why we weren't having this discussion then, and here we find ourselves a little over a year from now. And the argument is certainly there of what you mentioned, like the world shifted, things changed in terms of the business community as a result of COVID, but I think some of that trending, or at least the writing on the wall, was there as well at that time in May 2022. So I'm just trying to figure out why we are back revisiting this so soon thereafter of having made a decision. Realize that that's a bit of a lesson. Would be happy to have some insight around that. And then also, if the decision was that we weren't comfortable with regional commercial because of the transitioning that we're talking about, that we want to be aware of, right, that surrounds this. If we weren't comfortable then, and that was the reason why we decided on the business park designation, why would we be comfortable with it now for a change? Just a bit of education that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know what? That's actually, that's a good question for the applicant. I mean, the planner that processed that isn't with the city anymore. We don't know the history, to be honest. I think that Business Park was on the general plan and that we wanted to support maintaining Business Park at that time. The applicants come forward with a new request, which they're allowed to do. I think, yeah, in this, you'll see the staff report is very neutral. This is really your decision. I mean, you're in the council. This is really for you to make the recommendation and council to make the decision. So it's staff's really presenting a neutral position.
So the applicant, do you want to provide any additional context around why it was good then, but a year and a couple of months change now, it's not?
We really don't have a definitive answer to that, but just of what we've been finding as we've been preparing the land and going through our due diligence and our engineering and such, just we feel that we got the retail in the front, which has been great, and we've had great insight and great response to that from potential tenants and such thus far. But we feel like we're getting more demand than than we expected, and we've had more interest in that property, and it's become more desirable to be on Redwood Road and to be right there in the community rather than off Redwood Road and away from that area and that piece of land in specific.
Yeah, and we're not saying that we're opposed to having any kind of commercial, like a doctor's office or something like that that's in there. We just want to be able to have the flexibility of it. There will be small businesses there. We're not going to plan on putting a big grocery store or anything like that in there. But we're finding just from even talking to our agent, our realtor agent, just to kind of get the feel out there, kind of what people are looking for. It's mostly small retail space. So among the 5 buildings, there's about 32,000 square feet of space there. And we're actually proposing to have this look very similar to the project that was done just on the east side of Redwood Road, just across the street from Costco, which was Jared Osmond developed that in there, if you're familiar with that. It looks very good. It looks very clean. And he had very similar as far as like having a couple of buildings in the back. And I'm not sure what tenants are back there. I think there's like a Is there some kind of medical or some kind of a pet,
There's a veterinarian clinic
a
and a spa
veterinarian
and a
clinic
couple-
in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that could definitely work in this space as well. But again, we just would love to have the flexibility as far as being able to make sure that we've got it leased out when the time comes.
Thanks. And I appreciate the insight and some additional comments. And Kent, you read my mind. I'm glad you brought this slide up because that's where I was going to next. My mom taught me never to do math in public. So I want to just make sure that I counted up. We have the notable, but this is certainly not the comprehensive list of everything that would change, correct? Because, again, I'm not going to do it publicly, but there's not enough up there between 60 minus 36 and what you have listed. So my question then is for Commissioner Barton, where you had expressed some of your concerns. I think that's very legitimate. The differences between a business park and a regional commercial, we have the notables here. Is there something in particular that sticks out to you to like, oh my goodness, like that doesn't fit there? Because really what we're talking about is how to distinguish, right, between the two. Because whether as it's zoned now, I mean, a majority or a lot of those things could come in, and here we have the notable ones that couldn't. So is there something of particular concern to you that you feel it just needs to stay out of that area? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of, a little bit from our conversation last time, I think we talked about some of the same stuff, just kind of the area and putting this kind of stuff in there. When we discussed this back, what did you say, it was like May 2022 or something like that? I think some of the same concerns came up, just the area is kind of an area where, like I said, you don't want a grocery store. Again, you said you wouldn't put one in there, but we don't know, right? There could be a grocery store coming in. We could, the dwelling above a commercial, there could be, like I think a recreational center, I just, like a drive-through, I just think some of those things don't belong right there. I really don't. And it just stems from a conversation we already had, me driving by there every single day and seeing what's going on there already. I would love something to be there, like business park wise, right? I think it's a fantastic area for that. I just know, again, this is just some of the uses that are allowed, not all of them, like Commissioner Reed was saying, Ryan, sorry.
Happens every day. It's okay.
I do it every single time. I can't ever get it straight. But yeah, so I just feel like there's too big of a gap there where we don't know what could come in if we do it for regional commercial for that area right there. I don't know if there's a difference between like maybe 5 things and we know everything that could be going in there and stuff like that. I might be more comfortable with it. But right now, with a few different things that can come in and some other things that aren't noted up there, I just don't think it's the area for regional commercial. And again, some of it stems from our conversation back when we did it before. Sorry, I don't know. I'm not very clear on that, but I'm just still not comfortable with it. Even wasn't then, I'm not now, and so I guess I haven't changed much since then.
I appreciate that, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot with the question, but I wanted to have some more insight from you. So, and I think for me that the hard part is that we already have the Redwood frontage that is designated as regional commercial. And so is it a matter that the additional 3 acres, is that what we're talking about now, sways that one way or another when we're going to have the frontage possibility of the regional commercial already? And so what stacks up behind it, is that ultimately persuasive, I guess, is where I'm still kind of deciding that I come down on. But that's what I have. Mr. Chair, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. We'll go to Commissioner Kilgore, then Commissioner, hold on, I got to pop up the Commissioner Burns, and then Commissioner Wilden. So Commissioner Kilgore.
Apologize earlier for my mix-up there. I was totally on the wrong page. So I had a question to the staff. How many business or BP zones do we have left that's planned in the city so far?
Not much. On our land use map, there's just a few small areas with this land use designation.
Okay, and then do we have many that are being developed right now?
No, we do not.
Okay, so I was going to ask, my next question was going to be, how do the vacant spaces, if we have any in the BP zones, compare to what we have in the regional commercial zones? But if we don't have any BP right now, we don't know if any would be vacant for us at this point, right?
Some of the things that we've been hearing prior to COVID is that we're getting close to having the demand for that. And then post-COVID, there is a high vacancy rate for office buildings. However, that doesn't mean, we're a rapid growing city. So it doesn't mean that we should, and the land use map is for the future, for the long-term demand. So that does have to be considered, as the city grows, as the population grows, will we have enough?
Okay. And I guess it's just speculation, but to say that there are cities that have a lot more vacant business park, type of areas, it could have been that they overbuilt them, whereas right now, we have none that's currently being developed.
Right, we're here, and I'm pulling up the land use map. We are hearing that there's about a 28% vacancy in office buildings right now.
How does that compare to regional then, regional commercial? Do you know?
I actually don't know. We haven't heard any decline. We haven't heard, you know, that there's vacancies in regional commercial.
Okay.
So the land use map, it's this blue color that we're discussing right here. So you can see a few areas on the future land use map that, so these aren't necessarily, actually this one is zone something else. This one will have a school on it. So then this one behind the IHC clinic, and then we have a few other spots, and then we have one more spot. So this is across the street from the portion of the Wander development that's under construction. Between the high school and Wander, we're proposing business park on the land. This one already has a building here, so this has the Thrive Medical Building here. So not a lot, really, in terms of overall land use.
And when the land use map, what am I thinking? So when the zoning was set for the business, for this zone at one time, I guess there was an idea of how much a city should have, you know, I guess in general, right? And so I'm just wondering if since we don't have any currently under development and we don't have any, and the zones are diminishing as we change, if we do change like this one, for example, then I'm wondering if we're getting further and further away from like some target that we had set, you know, maybe in the master plan or in the general use plan.
One of the things that office will do for the city in the future is generate job creation. So while there might not be a demand in today's market and today's circumstances, we're certainly growing very rapidly. You know, we continue to exceed predictions and expectations in terms of our growth, and then as you see, things get built and they're already too small the day they open their door. So we're seeing that happen here because of the rapid growth. We also have adjacent cities that are growing rapidly. Today's situation with office space, you know what I mean? As populations grow, demand grows also. So even though there is a current vacancy due to COVID, there is also a trend and uptick in coming back to the office. So we just really can't predict how fast those vacancies will fill and when that demand will be generated.
Okay. And I really actually haven't really said one way or the other, and I was hoping that this conversation was going to sway me, you know.
I do want to, so the last time it came through, so I looked up that history. So this little bit of the back triangle, so it was business park. The land use was business park last time it came through, and then just a little bit of the back was residential. So the last request was for the front to be regional commercial, and then this small triangle to be business park. And then the piece in the middle was matching what was on the general plan. So there were some changes in 2020 that got approved.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I was going to comment on. Is I can't remember exactly how it went, but I thought we did talk about how the front was going to be like, I think what Commissioner Ryan also said was the front was going to be the regional commercial, then behind it would be the business park, and it was like a good compromise, or I don't know if it was a compromise, but it was like a good or satisfactory at the time, way of things are. And so, and I do understand that things change. You know, that was I can't remember if that was a couple years ago or when, but I know things change, demand does change, but at the same time, if we have a master plan and we're kind of losing the business parks, even though there may have been a certain percentage at one time that we thought was a good number for the city, I'm kind of reluctant to decrease that even further based on just current demand. So anyway, that's where I'm kind of standing right now, but I'm still willing to be swayed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Burns.
Sarah, did I hear you right that, so it came through Planning Commission and we approved for the regional commercial in the front, and then when it got to City Council, they said business commercial for the whole thing?
Well, so in 2020, they asked for the Redwood Road frontage to change to regional commercial, and then that was approved. And then in the back, there was a small piece that had residential. Basically, when the lines got drawn, it just got drawn in a straight line. So then that got changed to business park. So now they're just asking that the part that's business park be changed to commercial.
Okay, thank you. I definitely agree with some of what Commissioner Barton is saying with that area of town has been, it's the oldest area, right? It's been kind of neglected for a long time without great plans going in. But I disagree and think that this is actually probably a good plan for that area. It lowers the limit or the height of those buildings that'll be up front. And so I think that actually contributes to a better neighborhood feel for that area. I don't love the idea of another automobile shop going in because, good Lord, we already have all 87 of them. Yeah, yeah. But other than that, and that's not really something we really can control. I think this is a good change. I think this fits into that neighborhood area pretty well.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Wilden, and then Commissioner Ryan.
Yeah, I'm still a little new, and so I just kind of have a question. There, on that list we had up there, there were some things allowed in regional commercial that made sense here. And there's some things like a grocery store and maybe some others that don't make sense there. And it seems like we're restricted in a way that doesn't make sense to me. Isn't there a way that we can make a recommendation to have this rezoned to regional commercial with some restrictions, some recommended restrictions to the city council so that you can have medical center, you can have doctor's office and so forth there? I guess what I'm saying is I'm continually frustrated by our limitations. It's all or nothing. And it seems like there should be an alternative to say, yeah, it does make sense to have this, but we want to recommend we rezone this to regional commercial, but without these uses. I don't know who I'm asking the question to, someone that's smart.
In the regional commercial zone, you can do office buildings. That's not prohibited. So if it was regional commercial, you could do a variety. The regional commercial does have more variety. It does also allow for more intense use. Not all, the zones that we have in the city do have a lot of flexibility, but business park is more business focused.
So could a recommendation be made to the city council saying we recommend rezoning this to regional commercial without allowing grocery stores, without allowing such a limit to some of the things that aren't fit for that location, but allow it to be changed?
Well, the challenge with that is then our zoning map isn't clear. You can't look at our zoning map and then go to our code and know exactly what you do and don't have. You have to dig for an agreement. And so that's not clear for residents, for buyers, for other people who rely on the zoning map to tell them what's allowed next door. So we have done that in very limited cases. However, at this point where the applicant is just looking for more flexibility, how do we, without knowing specifically what that flexibility is, how do we address those uses?
Excellent point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We don't know why the screen went black. We're trying to figure it out.
Okay,
Just-
I was going to ask.
Not black, so we're kind of.
Maybe I picked something.
Do we want to take a minute?
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
I just want to point out a couple of things. So I'm doing this with my sons. I've got my oldest son here. I've got my two sons back here. One of my good friends from high school, Jared Osmond, has been kind of consulting us, so to speak. I don't see a grocery store going in there, okay? I think I had a conversation with Ken, or was it you the other day? On the phone. Like, we would love to have a clearer picture of what to build. I'm willing to spend the money. There it is. And right now, what we're finding is that the demand is for small commercial.
Working on our screens.
There we go. Of course.
Okay.
Just keeping everybody on their toes. Don't worry about it. Sorry to interrupt.
Anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Okay, I think we're just about there on the screens. Technical difficulties.
I do have another question, Mr. Chair, if we have a moment.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Ryan.
Thanks. Sorry to circle back, taking full advantage since we meet less often now, you know, I have to get in my 2 cents. So, quick question for staff, likely doesn't have the answer, but it would be of interest to me. When we are talking about the various uses, right, and within these zones, is there any data out there from a planning side of which ones have do a better job of keeping residents within the city? I know that's a big goal of ours, is to provide jobs within the city and keep people within the city. So is there any data that suggests if you're set up all for regional commercial, it's more likely because of the nature of the jobs that people are commuting in and out just to fill those jobs versus business park where I'm more likely a higher paid employee attending an office space? And I realize there's exceptions to both, but is there any sort, from a planning perspective, any presentations or data that you've seen that which zone tend to do a better job of keeping people within the cities that they live?
Yeah, so we, our economic development director does look at that. That's one thing that he's been tasked with from the city council, to create jobs in the city, not just the, the jobs that teenagers get or part-time jobs, but full-time jobs for head of household, employees that are head of household. So right now our city is lacking on those head of household jobs. And so one thing that business park and office does is generate those more so than retail does. There is definitely data on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Kilgore.
I was wondering if the staff had looked at, would there be any changes to traffic patterns, anticipated traffic patterns with a zone change like this? Or just traffic in general?
We did not look at that. Perhaps Jeff could better address that question if there are any
At
differences.
this stage, we haven't had a traffic study, so there's no way of really answering that, except, just opinion-based. Obviously, I think with a regional commercial, you'd have more traffic because you'd have a lot more turnover rather than an office setting.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I think partially to help with Commissioner Ryan's question. So I would stay in a city because of the convenience in like retail offerings that the city had, like stores and things like that. So I would go, I'd stay because I don't have to go to American Fork in order to do shopping or dining or whatever. However, my wife, myself, and my son, who's got a part-time job, we all work outside of the city. So those cities are getting the benefit of me working there, and then I eat at their restaurants and everything. Well, I don't do that anymore. I work at home, but my son, he works in Salt Lake City. My wife works also in Salt Lake City, and so I could just see that the city wants to have those office parks in order to keep some of those, some of our residents here to get those jobs, and then they also eat here during the day. Whereas right now we only at night and we just do shopping on the weekends. But that's great because we have those regional commercial outlets. But I think probably a lot of folks in our city are that way because we don't have those kinds of jobs here. Yeah, so I think that's why we probably want to attract some. And that's why I'm a little worried about losing some of those zones. It's kind of like we're losing like the waterfront to residential, and we're losing business parks maybe to, yes, it's current demand. I totally get that, but at the same time, is that really what the land use envisioned for us over the next 40, 50 years? So that's the issue I face. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Barton, and then Commissioner Burns.
I just had a question. I think the traffic thing came up last time we discussed this. Did it come up last time we discussed this? Because traffic would be crazy right there. It already is, right? But I don't remember if we had brought that up or we talked about it. Oh, not on the actual, like,
elementary
RC
school
or
that
the
was there,
PD.
yeah,
Oh,
but not on
Yeah,
this.
it was the pass-through from the residential.
Oh,
There's
that's what it
kind of a
was. I knew it was
road.
the same area and I couldn't remember what it was. Okay, that was my question.
So I just want to remind everyone too that Primary Children's is opening up pretty close to there. And this is kind of a great little spot, like to look at, if some of these buildings are office buildings where outside outpatient doctors go in. And then if any of the, like some of the smaller buildings, just potentially, right, could be like a physical therapy office or things along those lines, or, you know, the repair shop for where you go get your kid's wheelchair fixed and their oxygen shop and all of that. Those are great little spots to have, and especially with the hospital being that close. And as far as traffic goes too, yeah, we're probably going to have cars cutting through and all of that, but and the long-term idea is that we have some office space, and then those workers don't have to leave and drive somewhere to go get lunch, right? So putting in some of those smaller regional commercial development allows for that, allows for better long-term planning. I think this is a great use of that area, and I think that when we make plans, the idea is that we're making a general plan that's that long-term plan, and then we adjust and have things fit as needed as time goes on and we see what else is developing, because obviously we can't control what Lehigh puts in. And instead of putting in just blocks of warehouse, this is an opportunity to put some of those other services that might be better supporting that hospital as it goes in. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Barton.
Oh, just to clarify, so the front part of it's already regional commercial, right?
Right.
So we'll already get a lot of that stuff anyway. So I guess that's my thing, is we have that stuff coming in. I'm with Ken where I hate to give up. I mean, again, I'm again, just because I don't think it's a great spot for it by miles. So like, I hate to give up. I grew up with an entrepreneur dad and brother, and we still have a family business. And they're down south now, but to find an office for employees and stuff like that, that's kind of hard. And I feel like I do kind of hate to give that up here in the city. I mean, hopefully we have entrepreneurs, so we have businesses that are growing here with our residents here, and hopefully they have to find office space eventually. We want to, our businesses to grow like that. So a little bit of agreement right there with Ken is, yeah, we are giving that up. And so say my family, we still ran a family business up here rather than down south, then we would have to go out of the city to find office space for our 25 employees that we have. And so that's kind of something to think about as well. That was a great concern that was brought up. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. The only thing I have to say about this, I am concerned about how much of the business park we're losing and we have lost. Part of Wander was supposed to be a business park. That's gone, and we'll never give it back. The whole thing in the general plan, we said it was going to be business park, and we already conceded the Redwood Road, which I think is probably the high traffic area should probably be regional commercial. But I am concerned about losing the business park. So with that, I'll go ahead and open this up and entertain a motion. Oh, yeah, we did the public hearing at the, It was short. There wasn't any public comment.
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair. It'd be fun to see where this one shakes down, but I'm actually in favor of. So I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval that requests a general plan amendment to the rezone from business park to regional commercial for property located at 1751 North Redwood Road, with the findings and conditions in the staff packet report and as presented this evening on July 13th, 2023.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Hill. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
I think we'll have to do a voice or a count. Commissioner Burns, yea or nay?
Aye. Yay.
Okay, yea. Commissioner Hill?
Aye.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham, nay. Commissioner Barton?
Nay.
Commissioner Wilden?
Nay.
Commissioner Ryan?
Yay.
So it's 4-3. So that passes. Those that voted against it, would you like to make a comment as to why you voted against it?
Yeah, I think there's, again, too big of a span between what's allowed between business and the regional commercial, and I feel like we're giving up a really good spot for our office space for our entrepreneurs and their families and their employees. We're losing that, and I feel like we have none left, but.
My biggest concern is the usage. There's some usages that aren't ideal for the neighbors.
Okay, and I was concerned about losing the business park. All right, congratulations. We'll move on to the next item, first business item. This is a Valvoline Oil site plan located at 1283 North Redwood Road. Bradley Carter as applicant and Gina Grand Prix is presenting this for us.
Good evening, Commissioners.
The applicant here this evening.
I believe so.
Would you like to come up and join us?
Russ, yes, they're here. You're
You
welcome.
can both come up and
Sit.
there's 2 seats.
All right, the application before you is a site plan for the Valvoline Oil development. It is located on lot, let's move over here. So it is 0.7 acres in regional commercial in the Plat F, the Saratoga Springs Commercial Plat F, or the Home Depot subdivision, if you remember correctly. It is, the access is gained off of Lake Drive, or the future Lake Drive that's being currently built. And it is simply a oil changing quick lube, basically. And the application meets all of the code requirements and staff recommends approval. Kind of going through all of these, you can see the landscaping is correct, meets all of that. The elevations meets all of the site plan design requirements, architectural design requirements. Lighting is met, and we recommend approval. Questions?
Oh, does the applicant want to add anything to the presentation? Please state your name and address for the record.
Russ Naylor, I'm the architect, located at 1059 South Temple Street in South Jordan. And we've been working on this for about 6 months with Gina. And your process is interesting. We're really excited about this location. We think this is going to be a home run. And we're anxious to keep the process moving forward. As Gina indicated, this is strictly, an instant lube. They don't do any, repairs and so forth. So that, we anticipate that if we're doing well, we'll get probably something on the order of 50 cars a day. So spread over, 8 hours, that's not a lot of cars, in and out per hour. But, other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, about the use or how we operate or.
Okay, I will turn this over to I've got one comment. On the staff report, the very first page where it says future routing,
Yes,
it says none. That's
that
not
is a
correct.
mistake. It is going to the city council.
Okay, that's what I
I
thought. but
apologize.
I wanted to point it out.
Thank you.
And I will turn that over to the commission for question and comments. Commissioner Hill.
Being a fairly new resident to Saratoga Springs, the car mecca is outside of Saratoga Springs. Lehigh, American Fork. If you're going to go to any of the dealers to do any of the work, you've got to travel. So personally, I like the thought of having lube and oil change and those things close, so you don't have to travel to the other side of the valley, so to speak. And so I'm a proponent of trying to make life a little easier for those that are around here that just need to have those fast lubes and those types of things without having to go, 30, 40 miles away. So I just thank you for your vision. And again, the plans, the landscaping, everything, I think adds to the ambiance of what's going on. It's a nice low building, so it's a good use, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Barton, and then Commissioner Kilgore, and then Commissioner Wilden.
First, I want to try to be funny and just say one day we'll have an applicant that has their office address in Saratoga, hopefully, if we have office buildings here, right? Just saying. Anyway, but mostly you guys, this looks great. I think it's a great location. Everything looked really great about it. I didn't know you guys have been working on it for that long, but I agree. We have a couple here, but there's a lot of people here. And so I think well, you're lucky. I think it's a fantastic location for you, but everything's really good. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Bartner. Commissioner Kilgore.
So now I'm going to ask, since this is an administrative action, does the applicant agree to comply with the conditions in the city planning staff packet?
Yes, we do.
All right, thank you for that. And thank you for such a clean, all the complies, and it's just all clean, very few red lines. I know we're at the site plan stage, and it should be that way, but you'd be surprised at how many applicants come with all kinds of red lines still. So thank you for your diligent effort, and also because of the staff working with you as well. Okay, now I'm going to ask, so there's a planned community, I guess, adjacent, planned community zone adjacent to this property. I was wondering where that is, because I couldn't see it on my...
So it'd probably be south, which is the LDS Welfare Complex, DI, is a planned community.
Okay, all right.
So,
Okay. All right, that makes sense. And then, I know, again, this is just, wait, this isn't conceptual, is it?
no,
Okay.
this is site plan.
So where is the entrance of the building?
It's off of Lake Drive. The address is off of Redwood Drive, Redwood Road,
Right,
but the access is off of Lake Drive. If you remember back on Plat F, Lake Drive goes from Exchange and curves down and around and will go into Redwood Road at Commerce.
okay.
And so that's how they get that access.
Do you have the
Sarah,
overlay?
will you-
I mean, not the overlay,
Will you
but
pull up the
this-
map?
Yeah, the map.
Oh, are you wanting the site plan or the city map?
No, just the site plan.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so, once again, where is that entrance?
So the entrance is right here on this side, on the, right here.
Right.
I don't know why I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, there is.
Oh.
Oh, it doesn't show up. It's on this side.
It's on the side, okay.
It's on this side.
On the left, so,
Yeah.
It's on the west side.
It kind of shows on this one. So you come down Lake Drive. So Lake Drive comes down. So you would come into the site at other locations.
okay,
Just south of here, you could come into the site, or actually lining up with Commerce Drive.
Okay.
There will be an entrance. In the future, there will be a light at that location, and then you would come in over to the private drive inside the development.
okay.
Thank you.
And then on that, again, site plan, where's the ADA parking?
ADA is up along Redwood Road, so it is,
This one over here.
yep.
Oh.
Yeah, the bay doors couldn't face the street, so the building basically runs long access away from Redwood Road. And we enter on the north side, right?
The west side.
No, we
South.
enter-
Oh, and
We
and
enter the
north
building
side.
on the, I'm turned around.
This one's south. This door is on the south.
Okay,
Yeah, and then we exit to the north. And then the parking stalls, the handicap parking stalls are immediately adjacent to the little waiting area.
okay,
We have one van accessible stall and one handicap stall,
okay.
directly by the front door.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I just couldn't figure it out. And then I decided I didn't want to spend the time, I'll just ask Gina.
It's a unique lot, so the way that they've set it up is rather unique and perfect.
Okay, all right. And the parking plan does comply. I guess there was a question, but maybe there wasn't.
On
know why.
the checklist,
Yeah, I don't know why I put my question there. Page 60.
page 60
Well, that's 60 in the staff packet.
of the packet, let's see here.
And of course it's blank because I have to load.
I have to find my off-street parking. There it is.
I don't remember any issues related.
Yeah, I don't see any minimum parking requirements. They're required to have, or they're providing 28 and just a 30.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why I put that question there, but I probably had a really good reason.
Sorry, 10 stalls are required, 28 are provided.
Okay, then,
And then we
share it all.
we share the parking with what the use would be adjacent, which we think is going to be a Jack in the Box, and then we anticipate a retail use on the south side, but the parking is shared.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. I think Commissioner Ryan.
Did I jump out of turn? Am I the, all right, awesome.
Well, you're the next light that was on. Did I?
Oh,
miss-
excellent. All right. So I just want to echo Commissioner Kilgore's comments. Thank you for the application. Sounds like a lot of work has gone into that, both from the applicant and from staff, so thank you. Also want to very much commend, and I don't know whether you were forced into this or it was your own idea, but not providing access off of Redwood Road. Hallelujah. Like, thank you. Great idea. I love the way that the building is oriented. So that it's a minimal, obstruction looking from Redwood Road. My biggest fear, this is nothing against you gentlemen as applicants, the thing that I hate most is driving Redwood Road through communities that shall not be named in Salt Lake County, where you just kind of line it up and there's no aesthetic appeal, and we have, these uses after these uses after these uses. And so as much as we need these uses, and as much as we can think strategically about how we situate these uses to accommodate our populace, that's a win-win for everybody. And I feel like this is a great way to think differently around that and still provide some of those services. So I commend, Gina, if you were the staff point person, thank you for thinking through that. And again, if you were forced to do it the way you were, I'm sorry, but it's actually a great thing. And thank you for helping to work with us through that, because I think it provides what we need, and then also minimizes some of those obstructions or some of those sight lines that are maybe not as appealing. My one question around that is, I know that we kind of pick winners and losers when it comes to a few things right now, such as storage facilities, car washes, et cetera. I can imagine at some point we'll have more of these type of facilities wanting to come in rapidly. How does the city determine when we start putting some more of those stipulations around spacing and distances between the two? Because this might be a great candidate. And I know that we're picking winners and losers, and the first one over the line is going to win.
That has actually been mentioned.
Not a bad idea, in my opinion, for us to try to help minimize some of those things that I'm talking about through those not be named on Redwood Road in Salt Lake County. Is that politically correct enough?
There has been discussion on that but we haven't been directed to take that further. We can look at it as staff to see if that's.
Well, what we would do is pass that information on to our city manager
Yes.
and see, and get his feedback on that direction.
I think it's just a great opportunity to be proactive versus reactive. And so I would highly recommend that, if you don't mind making a note of and kind of having a conversation. I don't know if the rest of the commission agrees or not, but I feel very strongly about that, because again, we've hit it hard tonight, but we're right on that precipice where a lot of these things are going to start, we think it has now, and just wait to what's coming next with our growing community. So I think as much as we can help space and appropriately design and orient, kudos to all of you as a planning committee, and I would support that 100%. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just to clarify, Commissioner Ryan, there is a no access on those lots adjacent to Redwood Road in this subdivision. So they have to go on Lake Drive. It's on the plat. They're not allowed, UDOT won't allow them to have an access off of Redwood.
Yeah, that's perfect. Whether it
Yeah.
was
It's by,
or not, whatever is taking place.
it is,
I'm 100%.
it is forced.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Did I miss anyone that wanted to make a comment on this one? Okay, then we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed Valvoline oil site plan located at 1283 North Redwood Road, with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
We have a motion, Commissioner Burns. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll give the second to Commissioner Ryan.
There was Commissioner Wilden. We got to give him credit where
Commissioner
credit's due.
Wilden. Okay, sorry. I heard
I
it was
saw
down
him. He was
that
very anxious, so I even held back. I wanted
All
him to
right.
get credit. So.
Sorry, Commissioner Hill, you had the last one. Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Burns, a second from Commissioner Wilden. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That
you.
motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, we're on to the next item. Item number 2 in the business items, Rivers Edge East Site Plan located 425 East Crossroads Boulevard. Bruce, is it Bastian as applicant? And Austin Roy is going to be presenting this for us. Is the applicant here?
Yes, the applicant is here. Do we want them to come up? They can
They
come
can
up
come
now?
up. If you have more supporting people, they can take the first row. If they'd like.
All right, so this is River's Edge East site plan. This is returning to Planning Commission. It was here on April 13th. The item was tabled, and it's returning tonight. It was tabled so that the developer and staff could work out some of the details on the programming of the building and how that would work. And so we've communicated with the developer, and we're bringing it back. It's ready for review from the Planning Commission. So as a reminder, this is located in the Regional Commercial Zone. It's at approximately 400 East Crossroads Boulevard. You can see that here on the map. Crossroads Boulevard, it's just right, also fronts 400 East. The Jordan River runs on the east side of the property. The project is comprised of 2 parcels, so there's a 5-acre and a 1-acre parcel. They will eventually record a final plat that would combine the 2 of those to allow for the development. The project is 3 buildings. So there have been some changes since it last time came here, since it was presented to the Planning Commission. One of the biggest changes is that building to the north that you see on the top of the screen, top right-hand side of the screen there, is now 28 feet shorter. They've reduced the size of that building. And another important change that they've made here is they've made some adjustments to the way that the residential units will work. And I'll cover that in just a second. But what we have up here on the screen is a parking table that you see on the top left. They are providing 254 parking stalls. Before each of you, Planning Commissioners, I printed off a traffic study that was updated. We got it kind of last minute, so it didn't make it in the packet. That's the green one that you have there. And so Hales Engineering did a study. The reason why we asked for this is because there is a component of this where it will have residential, and then you have some business uses here. And they will be, they're proposing to do kind of a shared parking. And so staff was kind of concerned because since COVID, there's been more people working from home, especially in 2020. So Hales Engineering went and looked at that. They collected some data from 2021 that kind of looked at what the numbers are for people working from home. And they've applied that to the traffic study. Basically, the summary of the report is that they feel like this works, given the times of the day. If you look at one of those charts, you kind of see a trough there, and they feel like the shared parking would work. And I think they anticipated somewhere around 219, 220 spots, and this provides 254 stalls. So according to that the parking study that was done, it doesn't appear that the study didn't conclude that shared parking would be an issue. Staff, kind of looked at that. Our code just asked that they provide a professional engineer study be done, and that it shows that they can support what they want to do. So the parking is important, though, because our code does allow a 25% in the required parking, but it has to be approved by the land use authority. So that would be the city council. So in your recommendation, we would want you to make, part of your motion would be to, if you did make a positive recommendation, that they be granted the exception to the parking. Landscaping does appear to meet our requirements. They did make a slight adjustment. They've adjusted some of the parking, and then when they made the building shorter, they added some more vegetation to the north end of the building there. So that is another change from the last time that you saw this, but again, it still meets all of our code requirements. Here are the elevations. This is the north building. This is the building that was shortened. You'll notice that it is not as long as the other buildings, and that's reflected here in the updated elevation. They're still sticking to the same, it's still the same design. None of the materials, none of the design elements have changed since the last time it was reviewed. This is a design board of the materials that they're choosing, that they're proposing. You can see a combination of siding, kind of concrete-based siding, stone, and wood. There is quite a bit of wood on this project, as you can see in the concept images at the bottom there. The lighting requirements and photometric plan do meet our code requirements. This here is kind of a snapshot of the building programming. So this shows what uses will be used on which floors. And again, you can see there the shorter building is on the left. That's what that red X represents. If I'll go to the next screen, it's a better representation of how that breaks down. And so you can see on the bottom of the screen there's kind of a side view of each building, building 1, 2, and 3. And then up above, you see how each floor is used. Green being hotel, blue, the light blue and dark blue being residential. So, and then there's kind of a white or light gray is also residential. And then they have office space and a restaurant. In the pink, there is an amenity space that would be kind of like, is it gyms? Fitness center. And the lobby as well, hotel lobby, okay. So it'd be those two uses in there.
Sorry, I was wrong. That's
Oh, is that incorrect? So it's a fitness center. Okay, that's what I was told. Okay, so fitness center. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, so they did make some changes to the residential units. So there were 3-bedroom units. They no longer have any 3-bedroom units. They've actually changed, and now they've added 1-bedroom units. And so those are the light gray or whitish color that you see in the middle of the screen there. And primarily in the middle building, and then in the south building is where you see most of those 1-bedroom units. This is kind of a rendering of the overall project. You can see it, this is looking from the east at the project. You can see that they've really designed around the waterfront with many amenities along the waterfront and a trail that runs along the waterfront. The trail is something that we would, recommend that be part of the motion, that be developed with this project. It's a key part of the project and just doesn't really work without it. So that is in the staff recommended motion. And then these are just some more renderings of each building. And this is looking from the west eastward. So you can kind of see where the parking is, the covered stairwells, which are not, and then here we just talk, this slide here just talks about the parking requirement, which I mentioned earlier, the 5% reduction. And so in front of you, you also have 2 other printouts. So we had to update the engineering staff report and the planning staff report from the one that was in the packet. And maybe we can I get that one there so the developers have hard copy? And so the engineering report's just been updated to mention that this project cannot move forward until the Posey lift station sewer capacity issue is resolved. So they can proceed forward with site plan, but final plat and construction cannot begin until the sewer issue has been resolved. And so both the engineering report's been updated to that effect, and then also the recommended positive motion in the planning staff report has been updated with that. That pretty much covers all of it. I think I got it all. Do you have any questions?
Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, I would like to point out for Commissioner Barton that we have nearly 6,000 square feet of professional office planned, just for you. But I'd like to point out with our shared parking proposal, we're proposing to share 19 stalls, which is 7.3%, well below the 25% threshold. We're not asking for a lot of shared parking, but with the office, it just doesn't make sense to park out the office and park out completely the residential because those uses happen at different times of the day.
Hi, I'd just like to mention.
Oh, make sure, I forgot to have
Yeah,
you.
Justin Earl, 2630 Canyon Road, Springville, Utah. Not from Saratoga. He used to live in Saratoga, though. He used to live here just across the street. I just noticed that says HOA will maintain the trail. We weren't planning on having an HOA. The owner will maintain it, and we plan to maintain it.
Okay, so we would need to amend that motion if there's no HOA.
I just don't want there to be a technicality.
Yeah.
Because an HOA is like an actual entity, so.
I'm glad you
The
caught
owner
that.
would maintain it, yes. And then the second one of the renderings that you saw showed, it's the site, or the amenities on the trail side. On the right side, there's a trail that shows a kayak launch. That's not a part of our application. There's a whole process dealing with the state, Army Corps, slope disturbance, like there's this whole thing. That's not part of this, just so there's no confusion.
But we do hope to do it. It's just, we gotta work through a bunch of other applications before we can address that.
Okay, I will open this up to the commission. So Commissioner Hill.
Could you update me, staff, could you update me on the Posey Lift Station bottleneck? Where are we with that? What is that all about, and when is that being resolved?
Yes, the Posey lift station serves the northern half of the city. And it is currently very close to, it basically the vested capacity is full. And so there's no capacity left. To resolve those that issue, we're installing a sewer line, or the water development is installing a sewer line that will divert probably 60% of the northern half of the city's flows to a gravity system rather than through the pump station. So once that is complete, there will be no bottleneck, and they'll have capacity to, we'll be able to, have capacity for a full build out probably in the northern area of the city. That we don't know exactly when those improvements will be completed, but it could be 6 months, it could be a year from now, but they are working on it actively. If you drive down Riverside Boulevard, you'll see green pipe on the side of the road. That's the pipe that's being put in, right?
So it is a priority because it really bottlenecks a lot of development.
Yes, very big priority.
Well, to the applicants, I just want to share from the first time I saw your concept plan and your the design, I can't think of a well, just from a looking at the building, there's a sense to me they blend with that land. I can't, ever since we've heard about that, every time I go by, I can just vision what we see here. I'm so excited, to have livable space, condominium, but also a hotel, because we don't have many of those in our city. And I think for the kind of community we are, I just want to keep everything within. We want to grow. We want to be working outside of our community. We don't want to be commuting. Reed talked a little bit about that, and I heard it in another meeting I was in last week or this week, that we truly, a part of our plan is to be self-sustaining. And this is one of the items I think that would signal that we can have a mixed use, but some things that just really enhance the waterfront. And because right now we've got bushes here, and it's vacant land. So I just tip my hat and say thank you for all your hard work. There's a lot of issues you still need to work through, but your vision of what this could be for our community is a great start. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Kilgore.
Again, this is a administrative action, so does the applicant agree to comply with all the conditions in the staff report? All right, thank you. was wondering, for the residential units, are they planned to be for purchase?
For lease?
For lease? Okay. Do they come with like guaranteed or parking spaces? The leases do?
Yes, there's a certain ratio of stalls per every unit, correct.
Okay. And then for the shared parking, which property are you expecting to share the parking with? Or
Just internally within the parking lot. There
Oh.
are about 19 stalls that will be mostly vacant during the evening time when the office space is vacated for people going home. And those spaces then can be used by residential. And then residential vacates about 50% during the day when the office comes in and starts using those spaces.
Okay, so I guess it was my understanding for when we say shared, I thought it was where one property owner can share with another property owner or another business they share. But I didn't realize that you could also do that internally as well, where it's just basically a bookkeeping difference, right? Where you say it's residential and business, but it's all within the same group.
Yes, sometimes the term is joint parking. So joint parking, shared parking, they're the same thing.
Okay, and so we allow the 25%, is that different from the 25% reduction? Is that the same concept? Because did that anticipate the internal use as opposed to sharing it with other property owners?
Yeah, a reduction is different than sharing. So we do allow sharing that if, they're operating at different times, they can propose sharing those stalls.
Okay, okay. And then, which program? Oh, what's the vegetation anticipated to be then at this point between the river and the walking path?
Natural vegetation, I think that's a requirement, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything east of the path is going to be kind of a more natural look, yeah. It's part of the, the term escapes my mind.
Waterfront buffer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so when you say natural look, is that something that you actually are doing, or you're just leaving it to, just the
Yeah,
elements?
it just means indigenous plants will be planted in, and ones that are there that are acceptable are going to be left in place. You want to disturb the bank as little as possible.
Right, so you are landscaping it then? You're not just leaving it to nature?
I'd have to check with the civil engineers on that, but as far as I understand, very little is going to be changed along the riverbank just because you want to leave it as it is. But if there are certain, like a Russian olive or something like that we need to remove, then that is something that might take place. But for the most part, we want to leave it undisturbed in its natural condition.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed to landscape it, but they would be expected to restore the area, so like a natural seed mix to bring it back to kind of a more to the natural state is what would be expected.
Okay. And then about the the work from home trend, I guess, since COVID, I wonder about that because obviously more people are working from home. I work from home because of COVID, but my company just announced that they're building a brand new building, with office space. And it will open in about a year and a half. So that is happening. And also, like my son, he works for a law firm in Salt Lake, and they allow him to work from home 2 days a week, but he has to still go into the office 3 days a week. So although you could say that people are working more from home, those parking spaces are still being used, even though they're not being used every day, but they're still being used. So their parking lot on those days that workers aren't in the office, yes, they're empty. But then when they all have to be there from Tuesday to Thursday, then they're all full. So I think it's a little, I'm not going to argue with the experts, but at the same time, the trends that I'm seeing is actually a blend, and it's becoming more and more where, obviously as the population grows, then there's still going to be more people who's actually going to be working in the offices. So the percentages might be a certain number, but then the actual number is still growing. And then a lot of employers are wanting their people in the office, at least for part of the time. So those parking spaces are still necessary. there are certain days where everybody is in the office, even though at least half of them are allowed to work from home for a part of the week. So that's something that I do think about, because we've made some judgments in the past in our city where it turned out to be that it wasn't the best thing for the future for parking. And I don't want us to go down, okay, well, yeah, we've already learned our lessons from there, but now there's a whole new thing here. And we're using some data that I'm not sure is necessarily representative of how people are actually working and driving into work. So that's just something that I just wanted to bring up. In fact, my son even says that, oh yeah, on the days when we are supposed to be at work, it's hard to find parking. I have to park on the street. And so, and then the other days, they're empty, those parking spaces, because everyone's working from home, or those people who are allowed to. So there's still the issue of parking when people are at work. Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up. But otherwise, I agree with the comments already made that it's a terrific development and business and a use for that part of the river. I think it's terrific. And the things that you're planning to do for the amenities and stuff, it's just really nice. So I do like that. But I'm just not sure yet on the parking part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick questions and points of clarification that I want to make sure that I understood. So on the trail running on the east side, you'd mentioned that that's part of what we'd like to see, and did you say we need to include that as part of the conditions currently not there?
It's in the recommended motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then does that trail become part of a larger ecosystem in terms of we'll be connecting to things that will be running along the west bank of the Jordan River?
Yeah, I mean, the anticipation is to have a trail that goes north-south along the Jordan River. There are some parts that are along the east side of the river in Lehigh.
Yeah, we already have the Jordan River Trail, right?
Yeah.
That side.
And so certain developments where it's deemed necessary, they may have to install like a bridge to connect the trails so that you can go north and south.
But that's not part of this.
That's not part of this one, no.
And you can see right here, there is a bridge in Lehigh. This is brand new. And then they have trails on that side. So the goal is to connect to those.
And we'll have some control over that
So
process.
Saratoga City ends right here. So we're not, you know what I mean? We're not
So
going
that's my
very
question.
far.
Will we have control over?
No, we don't. But so actually Lehigh just goes to right here. So no, we'd have to coordinate with Lehigh to see if they can still add some here.
I mean, we have control over the fact that we can require a trail on our side, or we can require a connection like a bridge and things like that. So we recently updated our mixed waterfront code, and that was one of the amendments to our code.
Okay. The other thing, and I wasn't here for the first discussion, so I wanted to make sure I was clear because there was something in the staff packet that caught my eye, and I want to make sure that's not what we're doing. But there was a note in the staff packet that the short-term rentals are not permitted in the RC zone. Does that affect necessarily what we're talking about here with, I mean, what are we defining as a short-term rental?
We actually are proposed, so that the short-term rental topic was discussed here, and then it went to city council and it was tabled. We'll be bringing that back to the next city council meeting, and we will be suggesting that short-term rentals be allowed in the RC zone. A short-term rental is defined as 29 days or less.
So is a hotel a short-term rental because you're there for 2 days?
We have a hotel as a separate definition.
Okay.
So usually Airbnb is more of a short-term rental.
Right. Okay. Just want to make sure that I understood and we were clear on that. And then I appreciated the comments around the natural look, but also the note on the invasive species, because that will be there already and then likely to increase, right, with increased human traffic or dogs carrying seeds and et cetera along the trail. So as long as there's a management plan in place, I think that's what's appropriate. It sounds like the owners are going to be taking care of whether it's an invasive species or managing the portions that you will manage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then as far as the parking stalls, so I work in construction and engineering, and a lot of times you can shop firms until you get the answer that you would like to get. Speaking very frankly, I guess. And so that I just want to make sure that this city staff feels comfortable with, I mean, is Hell's Engineering reputable? Is Hell's Engineering giving us good information passed so that we feel good when we get a report from them versus they were shopped until they provided the data that lined up with the answer that the applicant wanted to give us.
We actually use them ourselves.
Okay, that's great. That's a great response then.
We're not opposed to their information. They're
That actually makes me feel good. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Our city attorney, Fred, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to note, along with the short-term rental being allowed in the RC zone, we are we're proposing a transient room tax of 1% for the city. So.
Oh, that's good insight as well. Thank you.
Yeah. That wouldn't come here before this body, but it'll go to the city council.
Commissioner Burns, thank you.
So is this property part of the waterfront overlay?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so, and I'm going to just apologize because I'm 100% sure my brain's not going to say all of this right. I know with the waterfront overlay, there was some, like you can get some amenity points, right, for putting in certain things. Is this, yeah?
Yeah, so they did have to meet our amenity point requirements. So that was part of the site plan review as we looked at all the amenities that they're providing, and they had to meet, they had to have a certain number to meet that threshold.
Okay, so how many of those amenities are going to be available to the public use, and how many of those will be available to only residents or hotel users?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, the trail would be, we would require a perpetual easement across the trail, so that would be public. But the pool would be a private use, and I'm imagining many of the other amenities of the property.
So pretty much just the walking trail.
Correct, yeah.
So we're giving out trying to think how to word this right. So we're giving out amenity points for things that aren't available to the citizen in general.
Our code allows for that, it does.
Yeah. I understand the code allows for it. I think that's something that I brought up at the last time that we discussed this, and I think that we need to bring that up again. That if we are allowing for amenity points to be used, that the amenities that are put in are available to all public access. If I remember right, last time we were talking about this, there was some confusion between how close a hotel and residence could be placed. Sarah, do you remember anything on that?
There is, yes.
And does this currently meet the requirements then?
Yes.
Okay. And what were those requirements?
300 feet, 500 feet?
It's 300 feet, yeah.
And that's 300 feet from a separate property, not within your own property.
Correct. It would be measured to the boundary line of the other property.
Okay, and is that why that building was shortened?
No, that has nothing to do with the north building being shortened, but you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here where the green ends, and then it turns yellow and orange. That's because of the hotel buffer, and so they have to keep that hotel a certain distance from residential, and there is a residential zone to the south.
Okay.
They would have liked to have extended the hotel all the way to the end of that building if they could have.
You'll let us.
I'm just going to openly state that I am against allowing any reduction in parking. So everyone knows my stance on that for right now. And then last time, there was also some talk about whether there would be on-site management.
Definitely, yep.
And
both for the hotel and for the residential.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Barton.
Just to clarify, because I know the big issue last time was that we were thrown with, hey, we didn't have all the information. It was like the short-term rental and that kind of stuff. So clarify how that's working now. Like on the city stance and how that, I mean,
One of the
The short of it is they're not proposing short-term rental at this time.
At this time, can that change?
It could change if our ordinance changes and then they decide to come back and propose a change, but right now it's not allowed in the zone and they're not proposing it.
That answers my question. And I am with Commissioner Burns. I think anytime we reduce parking, it always ends up being a mess. And so that really worries me a little bit, is doing that. And I also agree with the amenity points as well. I feel like there's a ton there, and the walking path is, I don't know if like sufficient, is that the right word to use on that, I guess? I don't know. Super great. I love everything about it, but except for these, these few things in there, the short-term, thanks for answering that. That was, I know last time that was like a big thing, right? We talked about it a lot, and I wasn't sure exactly what was happening with that. But I don't know about the parking. I think every time we reduce it, like it's a huge issue with a lot of parts of our city, and so I hate to do that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Commissioner Ryan, go ahead.
I interjected, Mr. Chair, sorry. Do we have any, I'm not accusing fellow commissioners of this, but outside of anecdotal perceptions around parking, do we have data, recent data about our parking situations in various areas that have been troublesome?
No, we don't. We don't collect data on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the question I have is, you had mentioned that we can allow up to 25%, but you're only needing, for the 19, it was what percent? Was it 9%?
7.3.
7.3, okay. So even though you're allowed up to 25, you're only requesting 7.3 of the 25.
And could I clarify one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Commissioner Kilgore was talking about the work from home. That was actually in the opposite direction. So the concern that staff had was that because people are working from home, there would be more parking demanded from the residential units, not less parking from the office units. So we're actually counting that more parking will be required than we otherwise would be, because I think in 2019, 8% of Utah County was working from home. In 2021, it shot up to 22%. That's probably pretty conservative because more people are being required to return to the office now than in 2021. But the issue with our project in so many different ways is that this is really the first project of its kind in the city. And with a mixed use project, you have different sort of parking dynamics. So when you have a multifamily complex, everyone's coming home at the same time, everyone's going to work at the same time relatively. And so those parking shortages happen at night when everybody's coming home. But when you have a mixed use, there's the added benefit that the business aspects or the commercial aspects of the property, they actually take off and they go to their homes during the evenings. So that frees up a bunch of extra parking for the residents that the residents can use. So it's actually creating a surplus of parking. Whereas if we were just a straight up multifamily apartment complex, we would be plagued with some of the same issues that other multifamily complexes are having in the city. But where this is mixed use, we actually have it's just a benefit of doing a mixed use.
And this is anecdotal, but we just got an LOI from a donut shop. They close at like noon, so all their required parking would be available. We don't know if we're going to accept it or not, but that's anecdotal.
Okay. The only thing, I work hybrid, and I'm 1 week home and then 1 week in the office, so I'm a little bit different than some of the others. It's something I think it's going to stick around. I don't know that everybody will be required to go back to work, but I do spend time in the office, so there's still a need for an office. And my company is mixed, because there's some that'll do 2 days home and 3 days in the office, so that whenever I go to the office, it's hard to say what the parking's going to be like. There's always a place for me to park, so I'm not concerned about that when I go in. We're going to go with Commissioner Burns, and then Commissioner Barton, Commissioner Kilgore, and Commissioner Ryan. So Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. But we have this trail that we're putting in, and we're wanting to attract residents to come to the restaurant and the trail and all of that. But then we're already a little bit low on parking. So I just think that, anecdotal or not, parking's already low. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton.
That's another parking thing again, because I've been driving around with my adult children trying to find an apartment for them to live in Saratoga, and without fail, every single time we go someplace, there's cars parked along the road, right? And there's limited room to even get through the apartment complex or surrounding the apartment complex, not even in there, like on the city streets as well. Every single one we went to in the city was like that when it came to the apartment complexes. Now, again, we don't know how this one's going to be, of course, but that's how it was when we drove around to all the apartments. Also, I don't feel like the parking is as says limited to the newer places, but like our old office buildings, before we had more parking that we were requiring, we do have issues there. Again, mostly it's the older parts of the city that I've been going to for a gazillion million years. But yeah, it's just, I saw that in the apartments as we're driving around with my adult kids who want to stay in the city, that there is limited parking when it comes to apartments, because usually they have multiple cars. Usually there's one parking place for each apartment complex, but there's usually two people at least that live there, right? And so that extra car is parked along the streets, or, I mean, yeah, I can talk about all over the place. That's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and that part's hard. So again, parking's a little stressful. Again, it sounds like this could be completely different here because of what you guys had just said, so you kind of answered a little bit of my concerns as you guys had talked about that. But I don't know, it's hard. It looks like this would take care of that because it has just the business with it as well, instead of just the residential areas. I have one more question, but do you want to answer something first?
Yeah, it's just, I just want to echo Bruce's point. If this was a single, and there was no mix of.
Yeah, so that answered my question right there.
That peak usage, it is much more problematic. The way that the parking study was performed was, the office, it's not based on, the parking requirements for office are based on your current code. Your code was not changed, work from home
right.
parking ratio. So this is based on the full load of parking requirement on the office side. So that's accounted for. Correct. And then on the residential side, the study said, hey, you should provide more because 8% of people are not working from home. Now 22% of people are working from home. So the parking study actually recommended we bring more stalls to the project. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so when he says, our peak demand will be about 219 and we're providing 254. So I don't know if the terminology is right, if we're saying we're looking for a reduction more than we're looking for shared parking that utilizes.
Yeah, maybe it's the word reduction that's throwing me off, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to share the spaces
right,
already on site that are going to be
the,
utilized times a day.
Okay.
We're basically planning 35 stalls above what
engineers
predict will be peak
would
demand.
need. Okay. I have one more question too, and this is just for city. When something is built, and I should know this already, I know, but if something is built this close to residential, do you have to notify the residents that this is being built? Or when does that happen?
Yes, so there's what's called a neighborhood meeting requirement.
Okay.
The developer did hold a neighborhood meeting, and they provided us with that, with the minutes from the meeting and
do we ever see
a roll.
those, or can we request those? I mean, now it's too late, obviously, but I didn't think about that until.
Yeah, we have a copy of that, and we could provide that to the planning
So
commission.
as you went through those, do you guys
needed.
review those and stuff like that? I mean, what kind of feedback were you?
So if I remember correctly, no one attended the neighborhood meeting.
There was not a lot of interest from the neighborhood on this project.
There usually is not those kind of meetings. That's why it's hard to know exactly what people are thinking, right?
Yeah.
And then it's noticed on the website as well, right? So it's for so many days beforehand and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this did meet all of the state and city noticing requirements.
Okay. Great, perfect, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton, Commissioner Kilgore, and then Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, so when the comments I made about the working in, but people are still working some days of the week, you're absolutely right. That was looking in terms of office type of, and that actually it would be more if since there are residences or residents, in, in your project, it would be more at home. And then I was also going to add the comment about how even though they're one bedroom, if there's two adults, there's usually two cars. So even if one is working, there's still one occupy. But since now I'm starting to really get it clearer that, yeah, it's not so much a reduction, but it's the share part that you're asking for. And it's starting to make more sense to me from that perspective that I think what you're asking for is very reasonable. It wasn't before until I finally figured that in my own mind. Because all the concerns that I had is kind of taken care of by what you've already done. And by you explaining that to me, I feel a lot better about it. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Ryan.
Sorry, and thanks for working through all of our questions around this. And we just got the study, so I was trying to thumb through. But does the hotel itself, in regards to the parking, does the study assume 100% occupancy for the hotel? Which is not likely. I mean, you guys hope it is, right? But
No, we underwrite like 65% occupancy, like economically, but the parking assumes 100%.
okay. And so that's what the study assumed, and then we can likely, I mean, again, it's anecdotal at this juncture. You guys hope for 100%.
It's that worst case scenario, worst case parking scenario. There's a huge city event that brings in a lot of people, a rodeo or, a new temple or something is announced and a lot of people come. Well, that 3-day period of time, the hotel's at 100% occupancy. There's still office, there's still restaurant, there's still all these uses. So that's what the parking study looks at. It's the Black Friday, retail event is what they're looking at.
Splash days here in Saratoga, splash days. The other quick question I had is, so what happens often with like our commercial tenants and some of the things that you're going to bring in, which I think is a bonus, and I want to voice my support. But what you'll see is fights over parking occur. So a high-powered lawyer like Fred, for example, takes up an office space, and he gets really pissed off when he drives in every morning and residents A, B, and C have taken all the parking spaces in front of the office space, and he starts his day at 6. They don't leave until 8, and he starts getting really fired up and angry at you guys and says, "I want you to put a sign up that says reserved for."
And that's the nice part
Fred.
about professional management, on-site, full-time, professionally managed. If we get into issues where we need to start reserving spaces, we can put signs up.
Okay, I would actually lobby against doing that eventually.
We're not planning on it because it is better to just have it be free form. But if we get to that situation, we have professionals that can manage the situation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Burns.
I just want to remind everyone that I was super in favor of this last time. So if we could just remember that really quick. Okay, so it looks like there's going to be 84 condominiums on the property. And if we assume that there's 2 cars per condominium, that's 160 cars, leaving 86 parking spots left for restaurant and visitors and hotel, right?
No, we're not assuming two cars per every condo.
Well, we are.
I don't think you can, though, fairly.
I think, okay.
I mean, if you look at our properties and portfolio, we don't have that anywhere.
I think you would need data around, just generally speaking, how many cars are there per 1-bedroom apartment? I don't know if it's fair to say that it's an automatic too.
It's probably not quite fair, but I would really argue that realistically that's what we're seeing in this city and seeing currently for rental prices. To afford rental prices, you've got to have at least 2 people who are working, and typically that means 2 vehicles. So, I mean, just looking at that number alone, I'm just not going to vote for the parking reduction.
What I'm going to suggest here, and I'd like to see when we have the motion, let's break this into 2 motions. One motion to approve make a recommendation on the site plan, and one motion on the parking reduction. I think that might help those of us who are in favor of the project that have questions on the parking. Yeah, we need to add that, right?
Yeah.
As a condition, is that change the HOA to
the owner?
Yeah, that should be part of the motion, to change HOA to owner.
All right, so I'm requesting 2 motions, one to make a recommendation for the site plan, and then another adding change the HOA part. Was there anything else in there that we need to change? in the recommendations? That was the only thing, right?
No, yeah, that was it. Yep.
And then I would like to see a motion just on recommending the shared parking. So those who want to vote against that part can vote against.
And condition number 6 on the screen and on the paper that was handed out tonight. Packet.
It's what?
So on,
Condition number 6, River's Edge plats cannot record and construction cannot commence until the Posey Lift Station bottleneck issues are resolved. So we just want to be sure to include that in your motion.
Can't you just motion to approve it according to the updated packet as of July 13th? Because it has
You
been.
can, mhm.
but we still have to add the
The HOA to owner.
because that's not on there.
The HOA thing still needs to be
Yeah,
added.
but the lift pump is in there, so if you just motion that it's the July 13th packet. Just suggestion.
Where are you
Brett,
guys
did you-
at with the Posey lift stuff? Are
Yeah,
you just
we're-
waiting it out?
Waiting, yeah.
Did you have something, Fred?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you separate the parking from the site plan. I'm not sure because the parking is integral to the site plan and there aren't enough parking spaces without the shared parking. I'm just not sure how you separate it. Is that correct, Sarah?
Right, if they were to have to add those stalls, that would change the site plan.
May I just make a comment? City requires commercial on the ground floor in this zone. One of the components we're most excited, frankly.
Easy.
One of the components we're most excited about on this project is the restaurant space, because we think that space right there by the bridge, by the river, with that good visibility, will be an amazing restaurant space with full patio, like dining out there by the river. But that's also the commercial use that has the highest parking requirement. There is no more real estate to put more stalls. So if we are not able to get that 19 stall, share, I'm just saying, we would be forced to just do another commercial use that has a lower parking requirement, which I think would be unfortunate, and I think it makes the project less cool, frankly, but we have to do commercial, and there is no more space to do more parking spaces. So that's just the reality. If we don't get it, I mean, there's no threat, I'm just sharing with you the reality of, that is what it is.
Okay, so we'll have to do one motion with the updates.
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you're ready for it.
Yes, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval for the proposed River's Edge East site plan located on the corner of 400 East and Crossroads Boulevard in the RC zone with findings and conditions in the staff report dated July 13, 2023, with the additional condition that on item number 5, the language be changed from maintained by the HOA to maintained by the owner.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Wilden. Do we have a question on the motion?
Yes, so I'm sorry, did you add the parking part? Because that was a request, didn't we?
No, we have to leave it all the same, Fred was saying.
What's
Yeah, we
that?
can't break the parking out.
You can't break, I don't think it's fair, I don't think we can.
No, I know, I thought though that I thought you requested that we add that as part of the motion.
So,
At the beginning of the,
yeah, so basically, this cannot move forward unless the parking reduction is approved. So you would, as
Oh,
part
okay,
of that
so-
motion, you would be you would be
Scratch which
recommending
that
approval
request at the
of
beginning. Okay.
reduced parking.
yeah, that makes sense. So let me scratch that then.
So we don't need to amend the motion. We can move forward, right?
So I have a question on the motion. So that means that in approving this, we are approving the smaller parking.
And we're making a recommendation for the smaller parking and the site plan. Did you have a comment, Fred?
Yeah, just what you're saying, the shared parking though.
Shared parking, right. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
One nay?
I was stained.
You abstained?
Can
So
I
have one nay and one
have to do
abstain.
that?
Okay. So how many does that, so we got 7, 5, 4, correct? And then one nay and one abstain.
That was a hard decision. Like, I'm so for the project, but I agree with Rachel. When we're driving, there's 2 people in an apartment. You can't afford to live by yourself. And you can't. I have kids that age, and I know what it's happening, and they have to have somebody there, and and it's Utah. And we don't have places to work in Saratoga, right? And so people are driving out. And so they have cars. But can I go on the record saying it's awesome and I love it? And
Yes.
I'm the one who said nay, so.
Okay, so that motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item is approval of minutes.
You captured that, we need to change the date already?
Yes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for May 25th, 2023.
So moved.
Does that mean he seconds it when he says that?
What's that?
Does that mean does that act as the second when he?
No, I'm making the motion.
He's making the motion.
We need a second.
We need a second.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right.
Efficient, baby.
And do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes. Commission comments. I want to say all night long, I've had to stop myself 3 times from saying Commissioner absent.
Yeah, because I'm
Or
absent
Barton.
down there. I'm not Barton. Because I was a minute late.
That's a foreboding sign of Councilwoman Barton coming up here. So we all need to be, I don't know what lines I can cross here at our public,
Right.
our public planning commission meeting, but kudos to Commissioner Barton.
Thank you. It'll be a journey, I'm sure, if I'm excited about it, so.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? Director's report.
Okay, so there were 2 council meetings since our last meeting. We didn't have any items in June, which is very rare, but it was a nice break from meetings. Not going to complain. So I'll run through the items. The curbside pickup sign was proposed in commercial zones to have a limit of 5%. That was approved by the city council. There were some other code amendments related to lot line adjustments and notices and development agreements, and that was approved by the city council. Those are to get us in compliance with the LEDMA changes. This one doesn't come to you guys, but we approved an agreement with MHTN for services to prepare the downtown master strategic plan. And then we have 2 commissioners participating in that. So we have Commissioner Cunningham and Commissioner Hill participating on that committee. And then on June 20th, at the council meeting, they approved code amendments to define outdoor storage, the light industrial zone, uses and regulations, and then some standards for outdoor storage. Then the IADU changes were approved. The Ring Road development rezone was denied. And then Pet Suites actually withdrew. So Pet Suites withdrew.
Wow.
They did?
Yeah.
For all that.
So,
That was a
I know.
discussion.
It was, yeah. And then our next planning commission meeting, we have a few items for you. We're anticipating 3 or 4, so that'll be July 27th.
Yay.
Oh, there was one thing I do need to follow up on, and so a lot of times the commission has fantastic ideas. Any of your ideas that you have, I do need to run those up the chain to Mark, because those ideas involve staff time or which equates to money and things like that. So just so you know, I do take note of your ideas. It doesn't mean that all of them will come to fruition. Tonight I heard 2 ideas on code changes, possibly at least code changes. So spacing limits on lube shops, and then possibly requiring waterfront amenities to be public. So I'll pass those by city management and get some feedback on that. And what was the other topic? There was a suggestion made at a previous meeting to make a doodle video on, I can't remember the topic, but when I ran that up to Mark, he said that wasn't going to be possible because of the cost of those. So
What if, I mean, I can use Doodle. Can someone offer to do something like that?
I can ask.
What was it, a doodle video?
They're just, it draws for you. Like you take the whole concept behind it, you come up with the, the video or whatever, and then it like draws it out for you. But Doodle's super easy to use.
Yeah, so
Go for what?
Like one of the educational training things we were doing, I think there was mention that we thought it would be beneficial. Absolutely.
I don't remember the topic now.
I don't remember the topic.
I know you had suggested it, but I don't remember the topic now.
I believe it was how to participate in these meetings.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's right, for the public to understand.
Just ask.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure Mark's the one on record that said no, he doesn't want to.
If any in the public asks, why don't we know?
Well, I just wanted to let you all know I don't want it to ever seem like we're ignoring comments or something like that, but when it comes to directive for code changes, that has to come from city management and city council. So we can definitely forward the suggestions, but we can't take one commissioner comment from here and then go set staff to work. So just letting you know
So-
kind of procedurally how that needs to work.
So to that end, in my mind, would it be more beneficial as we are discussing through as a commission, when those things come up, to either, to take a
Yeah, can we
pulse
take,
of the
like, a
rest of the
talk during
commissioners?
commissioners'
Because
comments,
it
yeah.
could be like Commissioner Ryan has a bunch of crazy ideas and he's like, hey, go do this, do that, and everyone else is like, why the heck is he continually asking staff to do that? I don't think that's a waste of time. Versus like, if a suggestion comes up from one of us, that we are taking a moment to say, yeah, I think that's a great, and so that there's a
It would
consensus from the
be the
body?
commission making a recommendation to the council to consider that. So it wouldn't be giving us the direction. It would be asking the council to consider giving staff that direction.
Right. So what's the process for formally sort of getting a broader consensus from the commission? So that if it's not just one of us saying, hey, you should go do that.
I'm not sure if we have a resolution process for the planning commission, or if, I think just indicating it to Sarah is probably the way to do it.
We have a suggestion box somewhere?
Because.
Yeah, because I like what he's saying.
Because what will happen is either it'll come before you again as draft code, or she'll update you and let you know that it's not, that it isn't something the city wants to entertain. If that makes sense.
No, it does. I'm trying to find that balance to where it's like, hey, Commissioner Ryan's out in left field. We don't really need to worry about this one. He just mentioned it in passing, versus we have a pretty in-depth discussion from the council and we want to, from the commission, and we want to capture that more effectively as you go to Mark and say, hey, it wasn't just Commissioner Ryan who's always offering these crazy things. It was also Commissioner Will and Commissioner Barton. The majority of the commission felt that this would be worthwhile.
Yeah, sure. And I think I can always take the feedback. So when there is a topic like that, if it does seem like there's a strong consensus then I'll definitely, you know what I mean? Any of the comments I get, I'll pass that up the chain, but officially, I can't just take one comment and run with it, you know what I mean? I need further direction and support, so.
Well, what do you think during commissioner comments, if you brought something up?
That's a
that
good
might be
point.
good time
Maybe
to
that's
just,
the vehicle
hey,
that we
let's
use.
talk about this, because y'all are concerned about this. Like
Let's
what we talked
talk about amendments.
It's what?
Let's talk about amendments.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right vehicle.
Yeah, and then we can just say, we all are concerned about this, so can we, this be on the top of the list if Mark only has,
Yeah.
that's my recommendation. That's what I think would be a great time to do it.
What's coming our way next?
Well, more code amendments and and let's see, a plat. So more code amendments and a plat.
Well, should we, I would like to get the commission's feedback then on using amendment points on the riverfront or the waterfront areas, and then not having those amendments be open to public space. What do y'all feel on that?
So I remember how the amenity point system came to be. And that's why when you said that it should be used, since the city is giving you amenity points, it should be used for everybody. That didn't even come, that was like totally from somewhere else, because that's not how it was originally developed. And I was there when it was developed. I think you were there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
so
remember when we did it.
It's a good point, but that's not what amenity points are for. So I think maybe there's another way that we need to do that. So maybe it is like a riverfront or waterfront, overlay requirement or something like that. But the amenities are really just to make sure that the developer is providing enough stuff for the residents of a place, not necessarily for the city. And so it's not like points that they're
being awarded. It's just a tracking, it was just a tracking method. And before that, it was another system. And then probably after this, it'll be a different system. But I think it is different from what we should expect those waterfront areas to be developed for the residents. I think it's a great idea, but I don't think that's what the point of the amenities.
It wasn't for public use, it was for what they were doing.
It was for what they were doing for the residents, like for condos and things like that.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't understand correctly, because my understanding was that on the waterfront parkways, if you put a trail in for public access, then you got extra points. Is that not
Well,
correct?
so I'll get into it a little bit. Let me start with our Parks Open Space Recs master plan, and then let me also talk just a little bit about public amenities versus private amenities. We do have a Parks and Trails master plan, which is why we often require the trail to have a public access easement on it. We do have a Parks master plan, which identifies community parks, neighborhood parks, things like that. We, as a city, want public parks to be a minimum of 5 acres, and that's for cost purposes. When they're smaller, it costs a lot more to maintain them because you take the whole crew and you deploy them. They spend an hour there, and then they load all up and everything and go to the next little park. And so there's a lot more cost involved in maintaining a small park than a big park. And then there's actually a smaller benefit because, a 1 acre park generally, or, we call them pocket parks, right? The little ones you see in the neighborhood. So those benefit the neighborhood, but they don't have a bigger community benefit. So our Parks Master Plan recommends 5 acres or more. And then also the council has to take into account cost. So we don't actually, we meaning that program and the city, we don't want everything to be public. So we do want these communities to have amenities and to have pocket parks, but we don't necessarily want it all to be public. On the waterfront,
Has to take care of it.
Right. On the waterfront, that's a different topic, but generally speaking, you can't say you have to maintain it, but we want to use it. So if it's going to be used by the general public, it needs to be owned and maintained by the city, generally speaking. So we have to factor in long-term costs, long-term maintenance, and how much open space we have and how much is realistic as a city in terms of long-term budget and tax revenue that maintains those things. So there's a lot that goes into deciding all of those things. And so it is a suggestion that I can let Mark know that this suggestion was made. I just don't know where it goes from there, so I can come back to you and let you know. However, we do have to take in all those things I just mentioned, the master plan and then the long-term cost to the city.
Thank you for explaining that, because
that explains a lot better.
Did not understand. So then I'm just up here being a jerk. So
Can I add to it a little bit? We have an open space code too that does impose requirements on residential developments and impact fees. And if they install a certain amount of open space, they get impact fee credits and amenities. And so it's a complex system. Sarah can speak to it way better than I ever can. But we did do a memo about open space, and it might have been before you were on the commission, and I know it was for a couple of you. And I can send it to you again, if that would be helpful.
yes, thank you.
Okay, if we don't have anything else, we'll adjourn the meeting until the 27th.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about.
The thing is like,